Hey, I'm Roland with Mobile Geeks, and this is our quick review of the Lumia 930 from Nokia or Microsoft that is only using Nokia's brand and engineering skills to build these new phones nowadays. This guy has actually been developed under Nokia's hood but before they were taken over because it's already been out in the US as the Lumia icon on Verizon, but this is the European model Lumia 930 that just got launched in Germany and a bunch of other countries outside the US. It is the most powerful phone that Nokia has done so far, besides the Lumia 1520. So it's also using a Snapdragon 400 with four Crate 400 cores from Qualcomm at 2.26 gigahertz combined with 2 gigs of RAM and 32 gigs of onboard flash storage that sadly cannot be extended. It has a 5-inch OLED panel, definitely a nice screen that is very bright. Even in a bright sunlight, you can easily read that. And it has a full HD resolution in this case. Let's talk about the design quickly. If you look closely from the front, you'll see that it has those beveled edges on the sides right here. So it's got a cover made out of Gorilla Glass. Definitely nice to see that. And it's mostly scratch proof, but it's probably not able to protect you from shattering or anything, but it's definitely a very smooth screen and it feels very nice to use that. The screen covers most of the front, so they kept the bezel on top very small. Also, the bezels on the sides are, well, not the smallest, but they're definitely nicely kept small or, yeah, pretty thin actually. On the bottom, you get those standard Microsoft Windows buttons on here, so no on-screen buttons, but very well done capacitive touch buttons down here that react nicely and also light up in the dark. We have an aluminum frame that has this matte finish. There's also a black version that has a black frame. In this case, all the other versions have this metallic looking silver frame with a matte finish made out of aluminum, as I said, and it has this super green and very, very bright cover on the back. There's also an orange version, and my camera can't even really show you how bright this color is. If I just cover this side up here, you'll see that that's mostly the color that the back really has. There's also a black and white version, so if you don't want to go with those super bright colors, this is made out of the typical Nokia polycarbonate material that feels very high-end and not at all cheap. It's matte, so it doesn't really attract any fingerprints, except for when you have wet hands like I have right now because of all the heat my lighting is emitting right here. We have a 20.7 megapixel pure view camera on the back with the call size optics. It's a 6-lens optics back here, including an optical image stabilization, and we have a dual LED flash right there. On top, you only have the headset jack, and these lines up here separate the antennas or the antennas that make up the casing that are integrated in this frame. Over here, we have a small hole where you can actually pull out the SIM card tray. This uses a nano SIM. On the sides, we get the volume rocker up here. That's the power button right there, and a dedicated camera button. So that's really a nice feature if you're using this device for taking photos, which is one of its main selling points because it has a very, very nice camera. Down here, just a standard micro USB 2.0 ports and some etchings for CE logos, FCC ratings, and all that other kind of regulatory info. On the left side, there's pretty much nothing, and if you look from the side, you'll see that this is a pretty thick device. It's just over 10 millimeters thick, but that doesn't really matter much in day-to-day use because, well, you get used to that pretty quickly. There's one thing though, the phone is very heavy. It's a 167 gram phone, which is pretty heavy for a 5-inch phone. But there's a bunch of phones that are even heavier in this case. For example, the Lumia 920 was actually 185 grams, so that was an even heavier phone with an even smaller screen, because that had a 4.7-inch screen only. So Nokia has definitely done a good job of making this a very, very, well, let's call it solid looking phone because it's pretty heavy. It feels nice in the hand. It doesn't really go overboard with the weight, but it's definitely one of the heavier phones, especially when you compare it, for example, to the LG G3 that has a 5.5-inch screen and weighs in at 150 grams in this case, and it even has a bigger battery because this guy only has a 2420 milliamp hour battery. The display of the Lumia 930 is definitely a very nice panel. It is very bright and it's also nicely sharp. Even when you're holding it close to your eyes, you won't pretty much be able to see any pixels at all. My one actually has a problem with the lighting parts because there's a kind of an odd colorization part going on up here, and there's a small tint going towards purple on this screen. I've even selected the purple color theme right now, so you won't be able to see that, but I'll embed some photos in the video so you can see that. I think that is an issue that is only on this device because we have another review unit over in Taiwan where we didn't experience that, because normally you would have total black on this OLED screen because they only light up the pixels that they really use. So the contrast ratio should be pretty much indefinite. But in this case, all the blacks are lit up in even when the pixels are not used. I mean, like when there's no fonts or images displayed. So I think there is a problem with this screen on this device. But overall, it's definitely a great screen. The colors really pop on this, as you can see down here with those live tiles. Color reproduction is pretty nice. It's pretty tight and close to the RGB scale there. Brightness is also pretty good. We only measured 280 candela, but I think that is related to their automatic brightness adjustment. So when you go outside, it will definitely turn up the brightness to a very high level, and you'll easily be able to read this screen on the outside. Other than that, we didn't really experience any problems with the screen. So the viewing angles are definitely awesome on this. If you look from the sides, you'll see there's no color fading or whatever. There's like the colors stay true to what they're supposed to be. So definitely a nice screen, except when you have problems like I had on my device right here. Performance-wise, the Snapdragon 800 does a good job on this. In Antutu, or the Windows Phone version of Antutu, which is just a beta and not really representative to what the device can actually do, and comparable to the Android version, we scored 27,000 points in this case. So that's definitely one of the higher scores for Windows phones, and there's plenty of room performance-wise because the interface of Windows Phone is very snappy on here, no lags or whatsoever. Everything runs really smooth. I think there's a bunch of room for performance upgrades because you can tax this device very heavily and you won't have any problems running the interface. There is one thing though, it does get really hot. So if you run Antutu, for example, or in this case Asphalt 8, just this game from Gameloft right here, you will notice that it does get really hot on the bottom part right here, and also the frame will easily heat up to above 40 degrees Celsius. So that is definitely a problem on this, but it will also go down on the heat will easily dissipate when you have been using after you've been using the device for gaming, for example. And let's just jump into a quick game right here. Let me just skip through those menus and get started as quickly as I can right here. Turn down the volume, because you'll see that the performance is definitely on the better side of things. The Snapdragon 800 with its Adreno 330 graphics solution definitely does a good job on here, and everything runs really smoothly, although we're also using a full HD resolution on here. So shouldn't be any problems running games on this device as long as they're available through the Windows Store, where this selection isn't as big as on iOS or Android. But overall performance definitely is on the high side, which is to be expected since it's a Snapdragon 800 that is running the show right here. So definitely no stuttering or anything else that kind of lags or whatever on the Lumia 930 when playing games, for example. The camera of the Lumia 930 is definitely a great camera on this device because it has a 20.7 megapixel resolution, as I told you earlier, and it is accessible through this dedicated camera button up here, which is definitely a nice feature that I want other companies to integrate into their phones, because they're all touting the camera as one of the main features, but nobody, or only a few, actually integrate this dedicated camera button. It's a two-step button, so you can hold down and focus, and if you press through, it will definitely, or not definitely, it will take the shot. The class size lens back here is very clear, and also you have to make sure to be far enough away from the motive of the picture so you can actually have it in the frame. When taking pictures, it's very easy. You just hold the button and start taking your picture. You have a bunch of settings on here that you can choose from, so you can set up the flash, white balance, automotive, automatic mode, or you can just switch from select the focus manually. There's the ISO settings up here. Shutter timing is also available, and the brightness settings are also easily available. So the interface of Nokia's camera app is definitely one of the easier to use ones, and it has a ton of features that you can actually set yourself and choose from all those settings, and definitely be able to do really nice shots, and we might even embed some in the video. Otherwise, check the article on mobilegeeks.com and you'll see how the camera did on the Lumia 930. So it's definitely one of the best cameras you will get on a smartphone right now, thanks to the PureView technology and the 6-part Zeiss lens on here. The 930 only has a single mono speaker on the back, so that's placed in the bottom left right here. It is a pretty good speaker, but though it's not the loudest, the sound is clear though, and you won't have any problems of crackling or whatever when you turn up the sound. Again, it's not the loudest, so they probably kept the volume a bit down to not make the speaker go produce noise or whatever. It is a single speaker and it's on the back, so you can't expect any better results like on the HTC One M8, where you have those two stereo speakers on the front that are definitely much superior to the speaker on the 930 here. What's nice about this device is it has 4 microphones. So you have one here, there's another one over here, and one on the front, and there should be one down here. So this is capable of recording surround sound actually, and it will also reduce the volume on the microphones that are pointed towards the user when filming, for example. So at concerts, for example, you won't be hearing yourself talking as loud, or the people around you, but more of the sound coming from the stage that is recorded through those 2 stereo mics over here. And what's also of interest is that those 2 mics are, or all of the mics are HAAC mics, so they can record sound with volumes up to 140 decibels, so that those are very capable mics. Even in very noisy environments, you won't have any crackling or anything, and they will definitely deliver nice stereo sound, in this case with a very high quality. The battery on the Lumia 930 is actually a bit of a disappointment, because this only has 2,420 milliamp hours, and it is powering a Snapdragon 800. For most of the time, you will definitely get through the day without any problems. Only when you're playing games or using the device for a long time straight, like 8 hours for example, you will have to recharge it. When using games, you will have a runtime of about 5 hours depending on the game and how bright you set the display. In day-to-day use, I managed to score around 14 hours, and I would easily get through the day with that. When surfing and keeping the screen turned on and just doing casual web surfing on a bit of Wi-Fi, or mostly Wi-Fi, and a bit of 3G or LTE in this case, LTE is also in this device, I scored around 7 hours using Wi-Fi and having the brightness turned up almost all the way, so at like 80% brightness actually. When using it in a moderate kind of way, basically my everyday usage consists mostly of using my laptop and only pulling out the phone from time to time, doing some calls, surfing the web, playing maybe like an hour of gaming. I actually made it through 1.5 days, even maybe even 2 days, depending on how often I would pull out the phone and use it. So that's kind of all right, but I would have expected more from this device because Windows Phone is a very, very efficient operating system actually. So I was kind of thinking I would get a bit more of battery life out of this device. You'll easily make it through the day, so no worries. And what's also nice is that they have, in this case, integrated wireless charging using the Qi standard on this device. So if you get one of those charging blocks like I have right here, you can just place the device on here and it will definitely charge. I don't know if I have any charge on here right now. Let me just tap right here and see if it charges. Well, I guess this has run out of juice. It's combined with a power bank. So thing is, wireless charging is integrated, which is one of the reasons why the device is so heavy and a bit thick. But it definitely works, and it works very, very nicely on the Nokia Lumia 930 here. Software-wise, there isn't so much I have to say about this device. It's running the standard Windows Phone 8.1. What's interesting is they have done this lifestyle backgrounds on here, so not much of a difference towards other Windows phones actually. So you get the new notification bar up here, you have those quick settings accessible right here. The only thing I still don't like about Windows Phone is actually that the settings menu has a bunch of entries that are not standard, and it is a very, very long list of different settings. So that almost reminds me of what Samsung does on their phones. So they just throw in a ton of different settings, and you will have to deal with those yourself. What I like about the Nokia devices is that Nokia, or Microsoft in this case, delivers them with a bunch of their own apps. So you have a ton of camera-related apps. Nokia Camera is the camera app that I showed you earlier. There's mixed radio for streaming and a bunch of other nice features for people that like music or don't want to pay for special features on the phone. What's also cool is that Windows or Microsoft is now giving out this new lock screen beta that has an animated lock screen, so you can see that the time moves up there. There's a bunch of different animations where it slides open and stuff. You always get the Bing wallpapers of the day in the background, so that changes every hour or every day depending on what you set it up to do. And what's also really nice is the mapping services from Nokia. So here we have here maps that just shows you my location in Berlin right now. I don't know if you can see that on the screen right there. And what's also a very nice feature of the Nokia devices is their Here Drive Plus, which is a free offline navigation service. You can download maps for pretty much all the countries on the planet where Here is available, which is basically everywhere. You get offline voice navigation, you get offline maps and everything else. You can also navigate online using traffic information and all that other kind of stuff that you would expect from a good mapping solution. And Nokia has definitely an advantage over other companies, even from the Android sector, when delivering their devices, including the Here Maps and Here Drive Plus services, because that is definitely a killer feature, having a full offline navigation, car navigation service on your phone for free. So other than that, standard Windows Phone works really nicely. If you can get used to using Windows Phone and you're not stuck on Android or iOS forever, you could definitely give this a chance. And I think you will like the concepts that Windows or Microsoft is using on this, and they're definitely pushing hard on the software side on this device too. So overall, the Nokia Lumia 930 is definitely a nice evolution of what Microsoft and Nokia have been doing with Windows phones. It is the most powerful compact smartphone they are offering right now, and it's pretty much the most powerful phone available with Windows Phone overall in the market right now if you don't want to go for the super huge 6-inch Lumia 1520. The 930 is definitely a nice alternative to that. The screen is very bright. It has good color reproduction. Has a high contrast ratio. If you have problems like I did, send it back, they'll get you another one, and you will love this screen also because you can easily read it outside in the bright sunlight. The whole device feels very solid. As I said, it is a bit on the heavy side, having its 167-gram weight. I love the separate camera button on the 930 and the other high-end phones from Nokia in this case. The aluminum frame feels very solid. I don't think it will chip or anything. If you get the black version, you might have to remember that the black color on the bezels will wear off after a while. If you don't like the color selections on the back, just go with the black or the white version, so that shouldn't be any problem at all. If you don't like the orange or green, the camera is one of the best, if not even the best camera available on smartphones right now. Brightness of this, the LED flash is alright. It doesn't go too far into the depth. It doesn't have any laser autofocus or whatever like LG does on their G3, but the PureView camera back here with its 20 megapixels does definitely give you some of the best pictures even in low light conditions that you will get on smartphones nowadays. Performance is definitely enough. On the other side, there's one thing though, again, the heat issue. Right now the device is definitely pretty warm down here on this back part I was talking about, and the frame is getting a bit warm. Other than that, definitely a good choice if you're into Windows Phone or if you want to check out Windows Phone. The device should be available from 480 euros in Europe without a contract, so it has already gone down in price from their starting point of 580. So yeah, if you like the Lumia 930, we do too, and if you like what we do on our channel, subscribe, give us a like or a thumbs up. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Google+, and we will see you later.